Hello and welcome back to the LinuxPanic YouTube channel. This video I'm going to be showing you how to set up and install the uncomplicated firewall in my Back to Basics series. So, whenever you use an operating system, if it's Mac OS or Windows for example, you will always have a firewall that is always running in some form or another. With Windows, it's Windows Defender. But go back 10 years ago, 15 years ago, Windows Defender was absolutely cack. It was bad. It didn't work. Mac OS Firewall, it's there. It does its job. It's been a while since I've used Mac OS, so I can't say if it's good or not anymore. But they both have firewalls, and they're both enabled all the time. Now, that's not so much of a thing with Linux operating systems. There aren't firewalls there that are usable when you install. So my goal is to show you how to set up the uncomplicated firewall, get some rules put in place, and then get it running. So the first thing we need to do is we need to update our system. So we can do that with sudo apt update. I am currently using Debian 11 and sudo apt upgrade. Give it a quick clear. I'm currently using Debian 11 Bullseye on the kernel 5.10.0, as you can see here. So, first thing we need to do is we need to see if we have UFW installed. So, UFW version. In this case, UFW was not found, which means UFW is not installed. So, I want to do a clear. And in this case, for UFW, we can just do sudo apt install UFW. And as we can see here, it's going to say one newly installed file, and it's created all the conversions for UFW. So now, if we do UFW version again, it should come back with a version, but it didn't, but that's fine because we have now installed UFW. So what we want to do is we want to do sudo UFW status. As we can see, status is inactive, which means we now have a firewall that is currently working, but not actually doing anything right now. So let's add in some rules. So, for example, let's say, we're running a Minecraft server, so let's allow traffic on port 25565. Pretty easy. So to do that, all we have to do is we do sudo UFW allow 25565. And what that'll do is that I'll then enable all traffic on port 25565 to come straight through to this particular machine. Now, this is my personal rig that I use on the daily, as you've seen by the 2 days uptime. Now, to check to see if that has worked, we can do sudo UFW status again. As we can see, that is still inactive, but what we need to do now is actually enable and get the firewall running. So to do that, just sudo UFW enable. Hope if I can spell. Firewall is up and enabled on system startup. So now that that's done, do status. And as we can see here, we have traffic coming through to the server. Anything on 25565 will come through. Now, that isn't the only thing we can do. We can also give it word inputs as well. You can just give it regular text inputs, and then it'll figure it out from there. So, for example, if I wanted to allow SSH connections through to my computer, all we'd have to do is do sudo UFW allow SSH, and then check the status again. So sudo UFW status, and as we can see here, we now have port 22 TCP version 6. Now, what this v6 means is it then allows the connections through from IPv6 connections. So IPv4, it's just 4 octals of three sets of numbers, and there's your lot. With version 6, it's using hexadecimal to get your IP address. That's another thing entirely, but I digress. So Now that we have done that, we actually have our firewall up and running. Now, we could just leave it here and just say, nope, no more, I don't want any more. But that's not just all we can do. We can also deny connections from anywhere. We can also deny connections from IP addresses. So, for example, let's say I want to deny traffic coming from port 23. So what we want to do is we can do sudo UFW deny 23. And again, check the status. As we can see here, it's denying traffic from anywhere on the internet that requires port 23. Now, we can just get rid of this when we're done by doing, let's just check the manual. So if sudo UFW man, and we can see here we have the ability to disable the firewall, which I'm going to be doing afterwards. We can allow arguments, we can reject arguments, we can also delete the rule. So in this case, let's delete the rule that we have just enabled, because let's pretend we want to allow traffic from port 23 and we've accidentally denied the wrong port. So to do that, we're just going to do clear. So it's going to be sudo UFW delete remove 23. Remove the rule and then number. So in this case, we can, in this case, I typed that in wrong, which is okay. We will make those mistakes. So it is just delete rule. We delete deny /23. If we check the status again, it's still there. So as we can see, the rules, the man page isn't exactly the clearest of things sometimes, which is fine. So what we want to do is we actually want to check our best friend, the Google Oracle. We want to delete a rule. So as we can see, well, as I'm going to show you, is we need to delete a firewall rule. Now, to do that, as we can see here, we tried previously with remove deny 23. That didn't work. We also tried remove 23. That didn't work. That's because that's what the man page asked us to do. But in reality, it is sudo UFW delete allow deny /deny 23 /TCP. Did that work? No, it did not. Did that work? As we can see, it did. So, as we can see here, that did work, but it couldn't delete because it was a non-existent rule. Now, if we look at our status, we can understand what that means by non-existent rule, because we told it to remove the 23rd rule. But in this case, we only want to remove the 3rd rule. So what we do is come down to here. Could not delete non-existent rule. As we can see here, that is an existent rule. As we can see, rule deleted. We want to do a status. And that is working. Now, I would recommend checking other documentation sources online, because if we look at the man pages, okay, apparently we can't look at the man pages. Let me just, we need sudo to look at the man pages. You wouldn't think that, but there you go. But as we can see, trying to say, hey, look, delete the rule and then number, it's not exactly clear. It doesn't give an example. So this is why it is useful to look elsewhere. As we can see here, show the rules as numbered list of rules. You'd think they'd do that as standard. So sudo UFW status numbered. There's our rule numbers, which is fine. You could add that as an alias to then show up as that every time you typed in UFW. You could do that. That's up to you. So to disable the firewall, we just want to do sudo UFW disable and then sudo UFW stop. As we can see, we have disabled it. What is done here, because we've said stop and that's not an valid argument, is just chuck the man page at us instead with an invalid syntax. That's it. The firewall's off. It's not working anymore. Bob's your uncle. And if you really want to remove that, you really want to remove UFW, you just do clear sudo apt get remove UFW and sudo apt get purge UFW. And now then entirely remove UFW. Anyway, this has been how to set up the uncomplicated firewall on a Debian-based operating system. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you enjoyed the learning on how to create mistakes on the fly, because sometimes in the world of Linux, things don't work as we want first time around. Anyway, if you liked the video, hit the like button. If you disliked it, hit the dislike. YouTube will make a video appear that you might want to watch on the left-hand side, and another one of their recommendations somewhere on the screen. Anyway, I have been Nick, you have been amazing, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Goodbye.